Questions, comments? Open for discussion.
Yeah, obviously, item number 17 is something we've been discussing for a little while. It's the G&G Fitness contract to upgrade the weight room, replacing equipment. I think all of us have in front of us now 2 different bids from G&G. One is
The entire floor?
the entire floor, and they did take out the logos and things that we asked them to do. And we also asked them for another quote where we did partial flooring, replacement. Roll your eyes, but I'm just trying to save the taxpayer money. I apologize. Unfortunately, just looking at the 2 contracts with 2 bids, the product and the partial flooring is now a completely different product. There's a $5,000 charge for moving the equipment, which there's no explanation of why that would be the same if we're doing the full floor versus a partial floor. Again, this is something that the sales rep suggested we use the kids for and would take 45 minutes. And now it's going to take 3 days for 2 crews at 9 hours a day for a total of $5,000. And there's no real explanation of what they're doing, other than they're going to be moving some equipment from the weight room to the fitness center. But speaking with Mr. Brown, we don't even know,
Won't be all of it.
we don't even know what we want moved. So I don't know how they can give us an accurate bid when we don't even know what we're doing. So I think this whole thing is kind of a mess. There's a ton of questions I have that I think I have. I just don't think it's proper for us to move forward on this until we get some answers. Having said that, if we do decide to move forward, looking at the 2 bids, it's a difference of $20,000 to go from doing the entire floor to doing, pretty well over a third of the floor with the 1-inch, weight drop resistant flooring. So, which in my opinion would reduce the amount of labor as far as moving the equipment back and forth and things like that to do the flooring. So you don't have to remove everything and do an entire floor.
So Rick, could we ask Mr. Brown to give us some insight onto what's required to tear down, disassemble, keep together and coordinate and package the movement of all the weights from that room?
Well, if you look at it, I can't add, it does give an estimate of hours and man hours and
$5,000,
estimate days. It says 3 days,
If
2
you don't know,
crews,
that's
8 to 9
okay.
hours per day. Mr. Ritter. Mr. Ritter, it does say 3 days, 2 crews, 8 to 9 hours per day.
Yeah.
So there is a
Yeah,
little
but-
bit of description on how they got
Well,
the
but that's,
number.
and I mentioned that, but how do they know it's gonna take 2 crews that long when we haven't even told them what we're moving yet?
And I really can't give you an honest opinion on
And that's
breaking
fine.
down, weight equipment and moving that. That's a specialized task. So, but as Mr. McIntyre said, there's a big difference doing half versus all, in what you're moving. It's pretty vague.
So since we still have questions, might it be proper to keep this tabled?
It's not
We would have to
tabled. You would have to
we
make
would
a
have to
motion to
retable.
table.
Okay.
Bob, first, Rick, you had mentioned the students moving it, so that's been discussed once or twice.
And Dr. Short just,
Right.
That's a no.
So
absolutely
we
not.
wanted to get that out of the,
Absolutely opposed to
right, I want to
that.
get that out of the way, because Rick,
Right.
you did
Yes.
mention that. We started with, this was going to be a free move because we were going to have students do it, so,
Well, that was a suggestion from G&G Fitness.
okay, right, so, but that's not a viable thing, so.
Right, that was never the intent of the district.
All right, so we understand there's going to be some cost to move the equipment.
Correct.
We don't know precisely what it is. We don't know how they came up with the nice round figure of 5,000, which is, maybe just lucky or something. But yeah, a little more detail about that would be useful. I agree.
Can I make a comment? I had received an email from Matt from C&G Fitness. They will be moving 5 power racks. Are they big? The power racks?
Those would be the
racks
Like
with
squat
wooden
racks.
base.
Squat racks, yeah,
They're large.
they're large
Okay.
and they're heavy.
They're gonna be moved 5 of those. They're
Where?
gonna need, pardon me?
Where are they moving them to?
Can I finish, please? They're gonna be needed disassembled,
Not if they're doing a half a floor.
disassembled, placed, and reassembled to different locations, as well as moving 9 selected pieces to the fitness center, as it will take some time. And moving the actual weight room to the hallways could also require disassembly.
So
Once the
right
part-
there, they're talking about moving 5 squat racks into the fitness center.
That kids could do, you know, in their.
Which, yeah, he suggested kids could do, and my
We're
understanding
not doing
is-
kids. This is,
And I've clarified it every time I've said it. They suggested. Nobody here is saying the kids are gonna do it.
correct.
I'm saying that's something that makes me uncomfortable with this company to begin with, is that that would actually be a suggestion from them,
Okay,
advising
from-
us to do that.
From what I have
I'm
understood.
asking Mr. Brown a question.
Okay,
Can you
sorry,
please give me
Mr.
3
McIntyre.
seconds?
Go right ahead.
Do you think there's room in the fitness center for 5 squat racks?
I
And
don't
which would
believe so.
involve free weights, which we don't currently really utilize in the fitness center, correct?
That is correct, and I don't believe we could put 5 units of that size in that room.
So who made this decision that that's where we're going to move? Was it G&G
That-
Fitness?
I would say it would be between G&G Fitness, Mr. Barlack,
Mr.
maybe
Rivesti.
Mr. Rivesti, Mr. Stevens.
Okay.
Do we have any staff capable, do you think, Mr. Brown, of doing this labor?
No.
That's the summer hours where the buildings are being cleaned. If we were to hold off until school starts, possibly.
Well, the problem with that is safety. Not so much of our people taking it apart, but we don't touch that equipment at all. We sub that out for safety reasons and liabilities. If they're put back together incorrectly, who's gonna oversee that? And we are not trained in that.
It's a good point.
Very good.
These nuts have to be torqued, they have to be Loctited,
There's quite a bit to
Yes.
that is not in any capacity that we've ever done.
It's not in your playbook.
and that's fine, thank you.
All right, and then I guess, you know, as far as I'm concerned, we still have some questions about that $5,000 labor number. But the biggest question, I think, to the board is, are we gonna spend the extra $20,000 to do the entire floor versus saving $20,000 and doing partial floor?
Well, if we take it to a vote, you'll have an answer.
I thought we could discuss it, but that's fine.
Is there any other comments or discussion?
Yeah, I mean, I am uncomfortable with the change in level in the weight room. I think it's an unnecessary risk. Rick, if you're asking my opinion based on my time in weight rooms, I think it's a bad idea, so that's pretty simple for me. Obviously, I'd like the difference in price to be less, but like all the things we do amortized over, you know, the lifetime of that floor, that's what's a floor, 15 years? We're gonna get 15 years, it's $1,000 a year
This one's over 20.
to minimize the tripping risk? Yeah, that's. I do have one other quick question from Ms. Warning. Was there more of that email?
No.
No? When did you get that?
Today,
All right, so I guess one last quick question, Bob. If we would try to table this just now, what would the impact of that be on the work that you would do? Would that put a monkey in your wrench, or are we free to table this and try to bring it up again later, or
Bob
what?
has nothing to do.
Mr. Ravesi.
No answer, that's okay.
Zero.
Mrs. Warning, can you answer that?
talking to Mr. Rivesi today, it's going to be a crunch for it to be in there by August if we table it.
You have anything to add, Mr. Lapswich? Mr. Williams?
No, I have faith in the homework that they did, and I'm ready to vote on it.
All right, Mr. Gottman?
I mean, I do have a concern with coming up with the labor costs, you know, going from, and very concerning them suggesting that we utilize our students, which is a horrible idea, to all of a sudden now going from a 45-minute students doing it to 3 days, 2 crews, that's a lot of, hours and time for workers to be doing that. And without a solid figure as how they came up with that, I don't feel comfortable voting on something without a solid figure. And then I was just even looking, I may have missed one here, but even with the tiling, between half the floor and whole floor, it looks like on the half the floor, I'm not seeing it, but we're not even getting the Thor tile on half the
It's,
floor.
yeah, on the quote, it's a completely different model number.
So, again, even if we would vote and say go for half tile, we're not even getting the same materials as the whole floor. So I kind of want to know, like, why are we not getting, it's at the same cost per tile. If we're doing half the floor, we should be still getting that floor tile. Instead, we're getting just the active Pro Tile Greyhound. So, kind of curious as to what happened there.
Probably an
Is there
effort to
some
cut
kind of
costs.
Chemical or something that you questioned in that meeting, the price?
It was
I
the,
did, but
it was the
that's
molding.
Not an issue.
Okay.
Wasn't it the molding around the trim?
That was part of it.
Is that still in there?
The rubber baseboard is still in there.
But you don't have time to do it.
If we had to do it, we would find the time and do that.
Does anybody have any discussion on any of the other items in this section other than 17? If not, I would make a motion to approve everything but 17, and then we can make a motion for 17.
Second.
Okay, so the motion is to approve all items except 17. Is there a second?
Second.
Who made the first motion?
You did.
You did.
I'm not allowed.
Why not?
All right, John makes
You're
that
allowed.
motion,
Thank you.
Scott seconds it.
I was asking for it. Thank you. All right. When you're ready, Bonnie, we'll have a roll call on that.
Okay. Dr. Kalkstein?
Aye.
Mr. Lapsevich?
Okay, what is this?
We're going to vote to approve everything other than the weight room right now.
You mean the labor and everything?
No, the other items, all the other
I'm
items,
sorry.
all the other items.
Aye.
Mr. McIntyre?
Aye.
Mr. Ritter?
Aye.
Mrs. Warning?
Aye.
Mr. Williams?
Aye.
Mr. Bova?
Aye.
Mrs. Cerrucci?
Aye.
Mr. Gottman?
Aye.
All right, now I would seek a motion to approve 17, purchase and payment of the G&G Fitness Room.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Scotty, second by Mrs. Warning. Any final discussion before we go to a vote?
Okay, so the discussion is, which of these two proposals are we voting to accept?
We're voting right now on the agenda is the one at 72,000,
70, the higher price one, which would be the entire floor,
which is the entire floor.
which is the recommendation from Mr. Rovesti,
67,000 for Guy Larson.
and which includes the movement by the professionals. Okay, thank you.
Yes.
Dr. Schur, do you have any input on any of this?
My understanding is the floor, the entire floor was recommended by Mr. Rovesti from the athletic department and
Question.
recommended.
I'm sorry.
And at this point in time, we've had the debate over it. I do understand the pros and cons of both, but in the end, you have to factor in the safety issue of a tripping hazard, which I do understand. So at this point in time, the recommendation would be for the full floor.
And Mr. Rovesti also said that when you amortize that 20,000 out over 10 or 20 years, it's a smaller price per year, like 1,000 or 2,000 a year's increase over the next 10 or 20 years. And so for that small of an extra price per year, it does seem to make logical sense to him.
Anybody else? Roll call.
Mr. Lapsevich?
Aye.
Mr. McIntyre?
No.
Mr. Ritter?
Aye.
Mrs. Warning?
Aye.
Mr. Williams?
Aye.
Mr. Bova?
No.
Mrs. Cerrucci?
No.
Mr. Gottman?
No.
Dr. Kalkstein?
Aye.
Motion passes.